Hello and welcome everyone to our 69th session of Hello Casa. My name is Michael and today I'm talking to Richard Kallabat from Miami, Florida. Richard has overseen thousands of real estate transactions valued over 2 billion US dollars. He works with clients from all over the world and loves to assist them to achieve their goals and realize their dreams. In 2008, he relocated to Dubai and joined Bravo Real Estate as managing director. Back in the States, he launched MiamiLiving in 2016. His reputation has attracted high-profile clients, including celebrities, business leaders, artists, and athletes. Richard has been featured in 9/5 Luxury Real Estate, The Real Deal, Miami Today, and various other publications. Richard was also featured in the Top 100 magazine and is co-author of the book Luxury Home Selling Mastery. Richard, thank you so much for your time. Awesome to have you on the show. Why don't you introduce yourself to our audience?
My pleasure, Michael. Thank you so much. I've been looking forward to this, and I appreciate the invitation. I am Richard Kallabat, and I call Miami, Florida, my home for the past 10 years. That I've, that I've had the love building a great business, just getting married, starting a family, and now Miami is we call it paradise, and I get great pleasure and joy out of introducing all of the pieces of paradise of Miami to our clients and our friends and our business colleagues. And it's a real deep passion of mine. And so I'm super excited to share that knowledge and experience with you today, Michael.
Awesome. How is it to live in Miami?
You know, I've been traveling to Miami for years and years. I would say I probably 30 years.
Mhm.
When I first came to Miami, it was, in my late teens. And we would make it an annual trip. And then we would sometimes come a couple times a year, a few times a year. And so it just became such a second home for my family, especially my brother and I. Bashar, he's the one that introduced me to Miami, and his love for it. And, he was always kind of being the tour guide and helping me to appreciate and love all of the wonderful things Miami has to offer. And I can safely say that if you haven't been to Miami in a long time, it has really, really just transformed itself into a metropolis like I've never seen before. And in the past 15, 20 years,
Mhm.
and even most recently in the past 5 years, it has just been exploding with the amount of culture and the diversity and the international people that choose to reside here or at least visit and have a second home.
Got it. Can you give us an overview of a little bit the neighborhoods of Miami? Where are you active in the most as a real estate agent? And what are maybe upcoming neighborhoods and emerging neighborhoods versus, but also like mature neighborhoods on the other hand?
Yeah, Miami is it's kind of like no other place that I've been where you have cities that they have zip codes and they have names and they encompass large areas.
Hmm.
Um, Miami is more very, very detailed, very specific. Like really, it's dotted with postage stamp size little areas that all have their own different name. They all have their different attitude, different mindset, and it's just amazing to see how quickly you can really go from one area to the other area and see the transformation within the people and the culture. I guess because it is so many different cultures represented here. You have the Latin influence, you have
Hmm.
Europeans, you have different cultures from even within the U.S. that choose to come here, and so everyone seems to kind of be in different neighborhoods.
Hmm.
My office is in Coral Gables,
Hmm.
and so Coral Gables is an area we call it in South Miami. When South Miami basically means south of the Miami River.
Hmm.
We have a river that cuts through and kind of divides Miami, at least geographically, around the same size. But there's definitely densely populated areas of Miami, typically are on the east side of the state or the county.
Hmm.
which is of course closest to the ocean, closest to the intracoastal and the water, and that is where there's a high concentration of condominiums, which of course brings a lot of end users.
Got it. Okay, perfect. Give us an overview of your service offerings right now as a real estate agent. Locally, where are you focusing the most on concerning real estate transactions, and also vertically as per listings and the kind of properties?
Yeah, it's a very good question because Miami, there's a tale of two worlds. I mean, there is the single family homes,
Hmm.
which are very unique, and they're great because they're a lot of Spanish Mediterranean style homes that have been for a very, very long time. And now we're seeing a mix of the modern style of Miami, right? And these big, huge, 20,000 square foot, museum looking homes from the outside, very modern, very contemporary, very
Hmm.
sleek, very sexy. And so it's nice to see a different mesh. You don't see the cookie cutter, just one home looks like the other
Hmm.
so much. And I really enjoy that from the single family side. And of course,
Hmm.
being close to the water and on the water will escalate the price and value of that property tremendously.
Got it. Okay. A little bit about your earlier career. You you studied and then you went to Dubai. Give us an overview on your destinations before you chose to settle in Miami, and also especially your duration and your stay in Dubai.
Sure, absolutely. So I got my license in 2003. And at the time, I was in Michigan. So
Hmm.
that's where I was born. My family, all of my family, still lives in Michigan. And I started my real estate career in an area called Birmingham, Royal Oak, Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. And at that time, I was really enjoying the business. And prior to that, I did financial consulting. So I was a stockbroker, Series 7 license. So I really enjoyed the process of consulting with people,
Hmm.
helping them with major investments, with large sums of money, and really being an advisor as to the what's in their best interest given their circumstances on how to maximize that wealth. And it was at the time, as a financial planner, and I realized so many of my clients were in real estate, that I decided to get my license. And then I really fell in love with the
Hmm.
industry. And I had my own team. And in 2008, I was the number one Keller Williams agent in my office at that time. And I was 39 years old. I was, turning 40. I don't know if I would call it a early midlife crisis
Hmm.
or something. I always knew I didn't want to live in Michigan forever.
Hmm.
Um, and again, my brother Bashar, him and I were so fascinated and intrigued by Dubai, and we would
Hmm.
always, hear things about the on TV and the radio, and we would have magazines, and we would like, see these pictures, and we're like, oh my God, this is just like this place just does seems like another planet.
Hmm.
So we finally made it. Plans to go and visit, and so in 2008 we did. And totally, when you go to Dubai, and I know we discussed this, Michael, that you did live there for a year yourself. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but like your mind can't comprehend what your eyes are looking at.
Hmm. That's true.
Like for me, it was just so mesmerizing,
Hmm.
the way that the new world clashes with the old world,
Yeah.
and the way it comes together, from the traditional ways of the Arabic culture, and I am Middle Eastern, so I do understand
Hmm.
the traditions that are being upheld, in that part of the world and the UAE, right? Because that's what Dubai is. A lot of people think it's a country. It's not. It's a city. It's not even the capital, actually. Abu Dhabi is the capital of the United Arab Emirates, but Dubai is the sexy place, right? Dubai is the place that is internationally known, and for good reason, because again, they spent so much money building that city from the ground up
Hmm.
so quickly that it really just took the world by surprise, and it set the standard for what construction and how things can look like,
Hmm.
because they before Dubai, nobody had that type of growth. That time, I mean, I think at one time there were 25% of all of the cranes in the
Hmm.
world were located in Dubai,
Hmm.
because that much construction going on at one time.
I always look back and think very, very happily back to my time in Dubai. And for me, it was especially one part was so fascinating. Coming from Europe, the term international was like, in retrospective, European. It's like, Italian, French, and Spanish was for me like international cuisine. Then I come to Dubai, and international means like, okay, African, Asian, American, and you are then suddenly not a German anymore. You're like the European, and it's a melting pot of so many cultures, and it's just it was impressive. Um, you were there
Yeah.
during the peak of the financial crisis of the real estate, and also even working in the real estate sector in Dubai. I think like it cannot get more special to have like this intersection at a certain point in your lifetime. How was that?
It was it was we call it the wild wild west,
Mm-hmm.
right? And in US, what that means is, like, there are no rules, right? Like, people were doing whatever they wanted to do when they wanted to do it, because there was no framework, there was no regulation, there was no real uh, valuation
Right.
of how to deem what value something really has,
Mm-hmm.
other than what someone's willing to pay for it, right?
Okay.
and so and so it was seriously just this house of cards of, I buy something for, $1 million, and I don't know if it's worth 1 million or not, but I know the guy behind me wants to pay me 1.1 million, so I'll at least buy it and I'll sell it to him for 1.1, because he was selling it to the person behind him for 1.2. And so it just, it was artificially um, market, because it was just built on speculation. It was kind of like the gold rush, right? It
Mm-hmm.
was the gold rush, and Dubai was the last place, actually, as far as I know, was the last place in the world that actually experienced the crash,
Mm-hmm.
because uh, I left the U.S. already in 2007, in 2006, 7, and 8. The market was already crashing. The global financial crisis had started, but Dubai was still plugging along. There was still the Cityscape Real Estate Conference. People were still knocking people out of the way to try to get in line, because they couldn't. They didn't want to miss out on the next
Mm-hmm.
project that was going to be released.
How's the regulation, the real estate regulation there? Do you need a license in order to operate as a real estate agent, or how does that work there?
So at the time, no.
Okay.
Like I said, there was no regulation. Anyone can do it, and that's still the same way in many countries,
Mm-hmm.
actually. They don't classify real estate as a profession where you need to have some certification or a license when I arrived. However, a year later in 2009, yes, um, the government decided, listen, we need to have some, because at this point the crash was already in place.
Mm-hmm.
And so then they realized, okay, we do need something in place. And so they did go through a certification, and it was very basic. It was very, very simple. It wasn't really that you had a big challenge. You do need to study,
Mhm.
but I think it was more of a way to govern the people that were doing the transactions,
Mhm.
and a way for Dubai to charge for people to go through the licensing process. But
Mhm.
it did help.
Got it. Okay. Um, Coming back to Miami then, how was the change then? How did you then readapt after those 2 years, and how was then your market entry in the employment world back in Miami?
You know, that I mean, that's a great question. I mean, Dubai certainly catapulted my career into a whole new arena.
Hmm.
I discovered so many interesting things, and I really fell in love with the diversity. As a managing director, you know, my job was to hire and train and manage and teach and coach staff and real estate agents on best practices. And I really fell in love with that leadership role. And so when I wanted to come back to the US, I really wanted to see where could I best be utilizing my skills, my talents. As far as Dubai, the lifestyle, I just adore it. I still miss it.
Hmm.
I love it. It was really great. So when I say lifestyle, I've always been in love with you know, the sun, the sand, beaches, the water, the ocean, tall buildings. So fast forward to the U.S. Miami is the closest thing that the
Absolutely.
U.S. has to offer to
Yeah.
Dubai.
True.
It really does. So when I wanted to put my applications for job opportunities, Miami was first on my list. Second was California. I do like California a lot as well. So those are my top two,
Hmm.
and Miami just ended up happening rather quickly. And I liked the people that I was in communication with, and the leadership path that was put in front of me.
Perfect. Tell us a little bit about your current role right now. What are you doing? What are you offering? And give us an overview of exactly like your role right now.
Well, you know, it's constantly evolving,
Hmm.
Michael, and that's kind of what I love about my role is I have I touch many different aspects of the real estate transaction and the people that work that we work with. And so from a client servicing aspect, you know, we find it very appealing to be more about quality and not just about the quantity
Hmm.
of the people that we work with. Um, I don't want to overload my schedule and try to work with too many people at one time. The agents on my team were trained to perform in the same manner. You know, we really like to give our undivided attention to every client because each client has unique needs.
Hmm.
And so this philosophy, you know, sometimes it may result in fewer transactions, but it also leads to a very high client retention
Hmm.
uh, and an outstanding level of client satisfaction. And so sometimes we might not even be able to take on new clients where we're selective as to who we work with,
Hmm.
um, which can be frustrating because we like to help everyone, but without the risk of diminishing our standards of service.
Hmm. You are very much also involved in the career development and also acquiring talent for Keller Williams. Tell us a little bit there. You just mentioned it is super important for you also who you get on board and have a very strong qualification process there. For you, a good real estate agent, what are elements which, in your opinion, he or she has to have?
Okay. So, I mean, if Dubai was my catalyst for, you know, growing into a new identity, certainly Keller Williams was my catalyst for my leadership growth and development.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I like to say I was as the CEO of a Keller Williams office as a team leader.
Mm-hmm.
We're kind of put into the Harvard University of Leadership,
Mm-hmm.
and the company really revolves around um, the skills necessary to ask the right
Mm-hmm.
questions while doing interviewing and to seek out the deepest answers to potential shortcomings or situations that may occur that we can diffuse now and get that knowledge and experience. So the whole process of interviewing people, how to go so deep and how to really understand if this person qualifications meet the actual job description and what you're hiring for.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a matchmaking thing. And it's so, for me, it's brilliant, it's priceless, because it's not such, there's no, I don't think there's ever a bad candidate, right? It's not
Mm-hmm.
about whether or not you are a good person, or whether you or we want to work with you. It's helping people discover what are their natural skills, what are their natural talents, and be able to help guide them into a role that is best suited for what they are already naturally gifted at.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And concerning all these elements which you put together, and because you were also involved in like an entire transaction volume of 100 or 1 billion in US dollars in real estate, which is tremendous, which is amazing. How does it feel to sell like properties and also be involved in listings which value so much? Isn't that like something also very emotional, and something where I guess, especially like during the first part, or during the first situation when that happens to you, how is the emotional process there, and how is also then handling the customers on their end, because you have been dealing with very, very, very high net worth clients?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've had the good fortune of being surrounded by extremely talented people and amazing clients uh, who showed me that I can achieve success more rapidly by helping other people
Mm-hmm.
achieve levels of success as
Mm-hmm.
well. And when I learned that power of leverage, I
Mm-hmm.
call it, or succeeding through others,
Mm-hmm.
that was a game changer for me.
Mm-hmm.
And just the ability you can have when you impact, when you think of like, impacting, 5 people and 10 people, but then when you multiply that,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you impact 5 people and they impact five and they impact 100, then you see how quickly it can just multiply.
Absolutely.
And it goes from, five to hundreds to thousands to millions. It goes rather quickly once you have those systems in place and the proper standards in order to service the clients, because at the end of the day you have to have client satisfaction. We're very strict on
Mm-hmm.
how we approach our clients and make sure that they understand that we are going to do everything in our power to help them with their goals. So reviews, testimonials are very important to us. I think we have over 250 5-star reviews on realtor.com and
Mm-hmm.
various other websites. And that to me is the biggest reward when a client, they come and they say, thank you so much. Oh my God, people are like in tears. They're so grateful and so happy with the experience that they have with me and my team.
Awesome. Additionally to that, apart from the leverage, which I totally agree with, and I also totally I'm a huge fan of, you are yourself. You have a very strong brand. You have appeared in The Real Deal, Miami Today. You also right now co-author of a very, very famous book, which is going to be released now, the second edition. Tell us a little bit about this aspect of your own brand, Richard Kallabat.
You know, it took me a while because I always thought of, as a real estate agent, I always thought of my real estate business as the entity, right? My
Hmm.
my team is called Miami Living, and so Miami Living is my real estate, division, or my real estate empire
Hmm.
is Miami Living, and I just recently started to look back at all of the other successes that I've had that may not be my full time role today. However, I'm realizing that so much of my previous experiences have all led to the success that I'm having today with
Hmm.
Miami Living, with Miami, with selling real estate, with helping clients. So I and just the way that the technology is now with the platforms that are out there, that I believe everyone, and that's kind of one of my next endeavor is to help other people to recognize that we as individuals, we all are a brand, right?
Hmm.
We all are a brand. It's like a finger, you
Hmm.
know, uh, your fingerprint, right? It's
Hmm.
unique to you. You are you, and you have a brand, and it's what you do with that brand, and how you impact people's lives, and how do you add value to them. So just recently, I've been doing more YouTube videos. I've been working on my brand as a person,
Hmm.
not my brand as a business. I
Hmm.
don't know if that makes sense.
Absolutely, absolutely. And tell us that you already, and I'm super sure about that, because you, to my, for me personally, you have already a very strong presence and brand. Um, can you confirm that this is the way to go? Have you seen, let's say, more leads coming in or people recognizing you? Do you think, is it like something which you can like give a proof for the audience to say, yes, these are the data points which we can use in order to say this is definitely the way to go?
Um, Actually, I can't,
Hmm.
because, well, here's the strange part. I don't know, call me crazy, but my personal brand, I didn't create
Hmm.
it for the reason of monetizing it.
Hmm.
You know,
I,
uh,
I get it. I recently talked to Chris from London, and we were talking about branding versus sales. And
yeah,
branding comes along anyway, and branding can be pushed and should be always part of it. And it's very, very difficult to quantify the impact of your brand. Sales can be quantified very easily via the leads you're getting in, via the sales you're making. However, brand is very, very difficult to say, okay, what's the return on this investment on my brand? How do you quantify brand equity?
correct. Yeah, and even more so, I think when you're talking about your brand, I think it's a reflection of you, right? It's a reflection of you, what's inside of you, and the person behind the company,
Hmm.
that what you stand for, right? Like, what is your vision? What is your purpose? What
Hmm.
is your mission? And so to me, the message that I'm delivering now to my clients, to my sphere of influence, to the world, actually, through my videos, is, it's not just about selling homes. I'm a husband, I'm a father, i
Hmm.
have i have two young boys, and I'm creating videos, honestly, because I want to share my life experiences and knowledge with them
Hmm.
more than anything else, because they're so young. They're only 4 and 3 years old, and I don't know why I've had this, you know, this
Inception, yeah,
um,
yeah, idea, yeah.
yeah, well, no, not even the idea, but just like my own, in my head. I always thought that I was going to die at a young age.
Hmm.
I don't know why. It sounds morbid. I've had a lot of death in my family,
Hmm.
very recently, And so it makes you think a lot differently.
Hmm.
And and I just want to make sure that my YouTube channel is called Leave a Legacy. It's a Leave a Legacy channel. So I just want to make sure that if for some reason, especially now, we haven't talked about it yet, but with the whole coronavirus and the world at a standstill, you people are a little bit freaked out, and people are,
Hmm.
what the uncertainty of tomorrow has never been stronger than it is today.
Absolutely.
And not only in the economy, not only in my financial future, but people are dying. This is a
Yeah.
real thing.
Yeah.
And so I just want to make sure that if I die tomorrow, I want to be able to say that I have given a legacy. I've given parts of me and my experience in my life to my children that they can be able to watch later, and I can still impact their lives even if I'm not here.
I got it, and I really like it. It's a very nice approach, and I think this will happen much more often, that people say, like, I even even I are you publishing that already right now, or is it something you save and then it might be released once you really die? I mean, it's
No,
sorry, it's a very morbid. It's a
let's not kill me yet, Michael. Okay. um, no, I mean, my wife knows. I do have a library of stuff. And now I am. I mean, like, literally. I just, I just um, recorded 4 videos last week. I'm just starting to put them out there. And I just came with the revelation, actually, throughout this whole, crisis,
yeah.
right? That's like, for whatever it is, the crisis is the crisis, right? But it,
Yeah.
it, it has forced everyone to
No,
stop, slow down, reassess, reflect, reevaluate. What is your purpose? Where are you going? Is that really where you want to go? Is it meaningful in your life? And at least for me, it has. I mean, I've gone through this whole transformation
mhm,
mentally
yeah.
as to what does the rest of my life look like, and I'm kind of starting from 20 years from now, and I'm working my way backwards, and I want
Mhm,
to say, okay, if by then, what do I want to have happen, right? What do I want to, make it, I call it a legacy list, not a
yeah.
bucket list, right? It's not, oh, before I die. No,
Yeah.
it's not what I want to do before I die. It's what do I want to have happen after I die.
Yeah.
Right? That's what a real legacy is. It's not how you affected the world just while you were here. It's how did you make it better? How are you still making it better when you're not here? That is a true legacy.
Wow, I like the approach, and I really like that you also went all that way through and say, 20 ways from now, and then and then you're breaking that down and say, actually, this is what I would like to achieve personally. You just mentioned the situation of the coronavirus in Miami. How is it?
I mean, I can only compare it to what I see on the news and the television, and it seems to be the same for everyone.
Hmm.
My wife and I went to the grocery store today because, again, we have kids, we have needs, and there's a line to get into the grocery store because they want to ensure that the 6 feet of separation is
Hmm.
in place. So I mean, it certainly has changed people's perspective, and hopefully their priorities. And so I think some people are going crazy being quarantined or being confined.
Hmm.
Um, we're making the most of it because of our kids, and we're doing things that we don't normally do, right? I mean, like, we're going through our spring cleaning, and we're maximizing our time with going through our closet. Right now,
Hmm.
we're backing up all our computer, all of our data, all of
Hmm.
our pictures. Like, so many people have phones and videos and all of this stuff that you have on your phone. Well, guess what? I mean, what would happen if you lost your phone or whatever? Like, where is it backed up? And people go, yeah, it's in the cloud. But yeah, but where is it? It should be on some external hard drive.
Hmm.
Talking about legacy, talking about your memories. I mean, this is like your memories. Imagine, like, if you lose your phone, that's like that's like your house burning down.
Hmm.
Like, every
Absolutely.
in there will be destroyed, and what do you do to that?
Absolutely. Um, the impact of coronavirus in real estate in Miami, how is it? Where can you right
So,
now do business? What do you see the real estate prices going? Where do you see the trends right now and also the impact there?
we have seen a slowdown in activity, right? So what is activity? Activity is properties coming on the market, um, people viewing properties, and properties being sold.
Hmm.
So um, I don't think we've seen the prices change too much. We're already in a kind of a stagnant market. They weren't going up. Um, they were in some areas. Again, Miami, there's the housing market, the single family homes is really strong. That part is really strong, because there's only so many, right? We have a very huge inventory of condominiums
Hmm.
because developers choose to build condominiums versus single family homes
Hmm.
because there's more value, right? They can build 40, 50-story condominiums in one, 10-acre plot, which, can bring hundreds of millions of dollars, versus a small home. So because of that, today, if you ever wanted to buy a second home in Miami that you could rent out for an investment, and then maybe when you retire you can move down here, there, I'm telling you, now today is a spectacular time to be looking at condominium buying. Those prices have come down, and they have been for the past couple of years.
Hmm.
So anytime today to the for the next, for the rest of the year, I would say we have favorable mortgage rates in case you need financing.
Hmm.
They really can't get much lower. And the sellers that do really need to sell are extremely motivated to strike a deal right now.
Hmm. Are there some examples of listings right now where you say, this is interesting, you would like to present something, or there are neighborhoods where you say, look at these ones, or verticals, you say, in general, right now we see like a devaluation of a certain type of properties?
What I think is going to be affected, and I would need to, my partner focuses on commercial more than I do,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe the commercial market is going to have the biggest impact throughout this next, the rest of the year, because I think, because who's getting hurt the most right now are small businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And small businesses are the ones that own those retail stores that pay high rent, and so I believe there's going to be lots of vacancies in the commercial world,
Mm-hmm.
for sure. Miami has a very strong, what we call opportunity zones. And opportunity zones are areas that were at one time less favorable. However, the surrounding areas have grown and gentrified tremendously, and they
Mm-hmm.
become so expensive that the people that want to be in those areas, they simply can't afford it anymore. So we call it like the spilling over, right? So now you have to go to the nearby area that it's not as nice, but it's the best value because you can buy a similar home, similar size for, maybe 40, 50% less than you can in that most desirable area, with the intention of holding on to it. And then hopefully that area will now become the next, booming area, and it'll be a great investment.
Got it, got it. You have clients from all over the world, international clients, also domestic clients. If I now say, I'm taking your advice and I would like to invest, I would like to buy a property listing. How is the process more or less? Can you give like show a little or explain a little bit the steps which I have to take in order to acquire property in Miami?
Yeah, absolutely. So, it really depends on your nationality. It depends on the purpose of the property.
Mm-hmm.
uh, I have a big database of professionals. If you need an immigration attorney, if you need an accountant, if you need some kind of title attorney, what we would do is we would determine what method is the best for your particular situation.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to buy it as an individual, if you buy it as an entity, and again, what's the purpose of the property? Is it strictly for an investment? Are you going to rent it out, or do you want to, use it, strictly for your own private use? So we help a lot of different nationalities purchase property, and that was one of our biggest. Miami is probably 30+% of
Mm-hmm.
our business easily are from people outside of the U.S. We speak 6 different languages in my team,
Mm-hmm.
in Miami Living, and so if we don't speak your language, I can refer you to somebody that does. But more importantly, is our team of experts that will hold your hand and make sure every step of the way you understand what you're buying, the value of it, and the potential opportunity of working with us in that securing that property.
Awesome. Richard, if someone who's listening would like to reach out to you, how can they do that?
That's a great question. I do have my social media channels, Richard Kallabat on Facebook, or Miami Living is also Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn
Mm-hmm.
are my social media channels. The best way would probably be to email me. My personal email, it's my business email, but I look at it, is
Mm-hmm.
richardk@kw.com.
Perfect.
So it's just my first name, richardk@kw.com.
Awesome.
And then I will reply to you or be able to point you in the right direction.
Awesome. I'll definitely put that also in the show notes so that people can directly reach out to you. Your final thoughts, tips for potential investors, for also maybe potential real estate agents or other professionals or anyone else you would like to share right now?
I think the lesson from what we're experiencing right now, I think, is probably the most important final thing that I can share. History repeats itself. These things happen for a reason. I believe the world was flying at just a rapid, unsustainable pace.
Mm-hmm.
And we have been forced to slow down. And I know the world appreciates it. I know pollution has improved, and I know like just the actual natural resources are benefiting from our quarantine. But I also want to make sure, for us, this is our natural resource, right?
Mm-hmm.
What happens in here, this is our natural resource. Our brain, our mind, our attitude, our mindset, that is the one thing that you should be always continuing to master, to grow, to evolve, to feed it. We have to feed our brain, feed our minds. And I don't mean with the news and with social media. I'm really big into podcasts. I'm really big into learning from other people's experiences. I think that is just invaluable when you have an opportunity to learn, just like our conversation right now.
Yeah.
That's why, Michael, I agree too, because I love helping others, right? I
Mm-hmm.
love learn from my experiences, because I'm paying it forward, because I certainly know I have had many people who have shared their wisdom with me that has helped me. And I think if we continue to find ways to grow ourselves through other people, I think that is what is sustainable. That is what creates a unified world and mutual compassion and respect for us all.
Awesome. Thank you so much for all your inputs. I really enjoyed the session, especially your entire approach concerning legacy, leverage, and also the words you just mentioned concerning it's part self-awareness, but also part contributing to the entire society and making sure like what is it that I can leverage myself with in order to have an impact. I really thank you for giving this impulse and also driving this. It's really interesting.
Well, I always, with crisis comes ingenuity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what we're going to see this year. 2020 is going to be known as the year of ingenuity, and what that means is finding new ways to do better things,
Mm-hmm.
right? Taking something that works and make it better,
Mm-hmm.
or just taking something that doesn't work and making it work. So the ingenuity is what has helped our country evolve, and I think this year we're going to see that just explode from all different facets.
Awesome. Richard, thank you so much for your time once again. Thank you so much for all your insights. I'm sending especially a lot of healthy vibes and good regards to Miami. And I wish that all your entire family stays healthy and everyone is well.
Thank you so much, Michael. From the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate your time and your efforts. I think what you're doing is spectacular, and I am a huge supporter and fan of your work. And I look forward to working with you more in the future.
Thank you so much, Richard. Have a nice afternoon, and I have a nice night now. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye bye.
Bye bye.